लगेगा. It's
अच्छा, ऐसा जरूरी नहीं कि अच्छा
healing
ही
is a
दिखेगा.
healing is a difficult process.
यस. तो हम उसको डिनायल मोड में चलते ही
Correct.
चलते हैं.
और अंदर से खराब लग रहा है.
अंदर से बहुत खराब लग रहा है. और ऊपर से हम लोग 2 लेक्चर सुन लेते हैं, फिर अपने आप को स्पिरिचुअली बाईपास करने लग जाते हैं. और फिर कई बार ये जो, मतलब अपने आप को जो ये खराब करते हैं ना हम लोग, अगर हम इस स्पिरिचुअलिटी को एज सच अंडरस्टैंड ना करके, अगर इसको भी ना समझ के, तो बहुत 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 बड़ा नुकसान होता है, मुझे ऐसे लगता है. क्योंकि आप सबको प्यार ही देने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, आप सबको कुछ अनकंडीशन, मतलब आप सबसे ज्यादा जो डैमेज होता है वो खुद का करते हो उस चीज में. अगर आपने, प्रॉब्लम ये होती है जब प्रॉब्लम आती है, आप अकेला फील करते हो, आप भागते हो. जहां आपको पानी का छींटा मिलता है आप वहां जाते हो. और स्पिरिचुअलिटी एक ऐसी जगह है जहाँ पे आपको कोई जज नहीं करता. आप फटाफट वहां भाग जाते हो. आपको वहां पे बहुत अच्छा लगने लग जाता है. आप अपनी कमियों के साथ भी वहां पे बैठे हो तो आपको अच्छा ही सुन रहा है, कुछ अच्छा लगता भी है, कुछ सुनते भी हो अच्छा भी लगता है. लेकिन प्रॉब्लम ये होती है कि आपने उस प्रॉब्लम के साथ अभी डील नहीं किया. और वो जो अंदर के स्कार्स हैं, कई बार वो राइट एक्शंस मांगते हैं, वहां आपने डील नहीं किया, आप सोचते
Also,
थे
I
सब कुछ
think
ठीक हो जाएगा अपने
sometimes,
आप.
so this is the premise of today's talk. I
यस.
think what happens in spirituality is that we are told a lot of things, like accept people for who they are. And we start believing that, yes, I must, if I'm really on my path of spirituality, I must accept this person. I must accept everything about this person. I should forgive them. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I should forgive them. I should forgive them. Now I'm thinking about this person logically from the spiritual logic point of view. I'm thinking, yeah, I should forgive them. So I have forgiven them. But deep down, I'm still hating that person. I'm still thinking, why is that person behaving like this? So that's one thing. Another thing is that what spirituality sometimes does not clarify for us in so many words, but we need to understand this for ourselves. Forgiving somebody or accepting somebody is not the same as accepting all their behavior towards you. There's two very different things. So, accepting somebody's behavior and accepting somebody as they are. And in spirituality, we confuse the two things.
Yes.
So it's like if somebody is being toxic towards me in their behavior, I can find forgiveness for that person. But if I'm stupid enough to forgive that behavior and say, okay, I'm okay, you can keep behaving like this because I'm supposed to be a spiritual person, go ahead, do whatever you want, step all over me, I am a doormat because I'm spiritual. No, that is not true spirituality.
यस. और यहाँ पे ये वाली चीज भी समझ आती है कि जब आप किसी को एक्सेप्ट करते हो और आप फिर अपनी उस पर्सन को लेकर जो नॉन एक्सेप्टेंस आ रही है उसको भी आप एक्सेप्ट करो.
Huh. Firstly, to accept in ourselves that there is still a level of non-acceptance, although theoretically I realize that I should be 100% able to forgive this person and accept them as they are. But there is still something left. If it's left, at least should be aware that I'm still feeling. I can't, I may have theoretically convinced myself that I've forgiven this person. But when I think about this person, I'm still not feeling compassion. I'm feeling angry. That's the emotion this person is inspiring in me. So the forgiveness is not yet complete. I just know that theoretically I've forgiven this person. But what is the feeling that's coming when I think about this person? When I think about this same person getting hurt tomorrow, does it make me feel somewhat like, oh, you got what you deserved? Or does it make me feel like, oh, that guy was already so messed up and now another problem has happened with that person? Bad luck. is any part, when you reach that stage, it is the forgiveness is complete. But it may take years or it may never happen, but at least we should be aware that to what extent it has happened. Now, the thing is, what I feel for a lot of us is that we get confused between what is truly a toxic relationship and what is acceptable in relationships, because we are taught to do our best to accept things and make things work. So, at what stage do you realize that this is, so technically in psychological language, it would be called abuse. In a subtler way, I would call it toxicity. So, that is what I would like to talk about today, simply because at least we should become fully aware if there is such elements around us. The second stage would be to understand what we want to do with it. So, in our close relationships, it need not be just with our spouse, it could be also with people we work with or our children or anybody. But there are, let's say, broadly four types of abuse. The first one is everybody understands, oh, there's physical violence. That is definitely abuse. So then there's no confusion. This guy even raises his hand. A subtler form of physical abuse sometimes is that the person is not being physically violent directly with the victim, but let's say punching the wall, throwing things around. It's subtler, and we start thinking, no, he's got anger issues, but or he or she, but there's love. When there are moments of love, there's a lot of love. So we keep, so these are some of the ways, but physical abuse is at least easy to identify. The second easy to identify kind of abuse, I would say, is sexual abuse or physical intimacy abuse. So, what happens in that? The one, again, the obvious form of sexual abuse is where the person is not respecting your boundaries when it comes to physical intimacy, expecting you to be present when you don't want to be in the moment, in that moment, in physical intimacy with that person. So that's the obvious one that everyone knows of. But there is another type of abuse, sexual abuse in a relationship, which is much subtler and which is very hard to put a finger on. Here, what happens is that the partner makes you feel like, I'm so not interested in you, in physical intimacy with you. And this can drag for 6 months, 4 months, 4 months, once in 4 months, I'll think of having some sort of basic physical intimacy so that it's still like we are still a couple. But it's not a truly felt physical intimacy. So even now, this is about the quantity, as in the number of times in a month, year, week, whatever. But there's also the quality of that intimacy. So that in that, you're usually in a toxic relationship, you would be left feeling like something didn't happen, we didn't connect, or there wasn't enough uh, emphasis laid on my needs in this moment, only the other person's needs were catered to, and that's where it finished. So if you're feeling bereft in that department, it is actually, it is not something which is we give it to, we kind of say, oh, it must be circumstantial, it must be this reason, that reason, stress. It needs to be either worked upon, or it is a big enough issue to be called abuse. Thirdly, I'll come to verbal abuse. So if the person you're with, the person you're thinking of, if there is symptoms of shouting, screaming, using abusive language, again, those are very obvious signs of verbal abuse. A subtler form of verbal abuse is saying demeaning things in a funny way, especially in When there are friends around, when there are other people around. Oh, she's always like this. Oh, spends X amount. She spends very lavishly, or some sort of sarcasm, joke, which you didn't think it was funny. So if it's on you and you're not finding it funny, chances are it was meant to make you feel bad. And when you bring it up and say, why did you say that? The normal response of an abusive person would be, why are you being so sensitive? Come on, it was just a joke. But if the person wasn't being toxic towards you, the chances are that they will say, I didn't realize it would hurt you that way. I'll be careful next time. Instead of making it about you being oversensitive. So that's a subtler form of um, verbal abuse. Uh, Also, sometimes they will say, you incited me to behave that way. Something that you said or did got me out of control and I ended up exploding. Or so you know what triggers me. So why can't you be more careful? But it doesn't matter what, you are not a kid, and irrespective of what I say or do, you need to regulate your behavior. The other person needs to regulate their behavior. But most importantly, I would like to talk about emotional abuse. So, usually, when there is physical or sexual or verbal abuse, the blatant ones, there would anyway be emotional abuse present. So, you're suffering on all accounts. But there are some people who are that smart that they don't need to shout, they don't need to scream. And yet, it's so subtle, but it's there and it makes you go crazy. Like this person hasn't risen his voice or her voice, this person hasn't said anything abusive, there's nothing I can turn around and say you did this and you said this. The problem is they just aren't emotionally there. It's sort of like an emotional absence for a very long time. And a short emotional absence will not be called toxic, because we can all have phases. But in the long run, if in your relationship you're feeling that this person is just not really present, I don't have someone to talk to, I don't have a friend, I don't have somebody I can trust to be there for me under all circumstances, that is a toxic relationship. Also, such people have a characteristic of being very critical of the other person or dismissive of the other person. So you say something and the response would be, oh, you don't know anything about business, or you don't know anything about housework, or what do you know about doing this? So it's like you're always treated like the person with little or no brains. And over a period of time, one actually starts believing that maybe I'm not intelligent enough to handle this. They refuse to take no for an answer. So they'll convince you one way or the other. There's a constant pushing of boundaries. So if you say, I have a commitment at such and such time, they will find a way to find something or the other and make it about them. No, can you come to this? This is very important. So can you attend this with me? Come to my parents' place, come to this, do this with me. So your boundary is going to be pushed one way or the other. The most recognizable factor of emotional abuse in a relationship is, it's called stonewalling. So here it's like, if there's a fight, sometimes, let's say I've had a fight with my partner and I'm feeling very overwhelmed and angry, and I'm feeling like if I say anything now, I will say things that I shouldn't say. So I might as well take a break. So I might choose to tell my partner, listen, I can't talk right now. Let me come back to this later. That sort of a thing can last 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. But eventually, I will calm down and I will want to come back and discuss in a calmer way. That's taking time out. That's not stonewalling. But if I refuse to talk, it's days now, it's a week now. That's not calming myself down. That's punishing the other person for having a voice or saying something that I didn't agree with. So it's like, okay, you're going to rebel a bit against me. I'm going to punish you by not talking to you. And that's obviously if you're with the person who is your partner in some way, whichever way, that person is not talking to you, it's torturous. And I know of people who have done it not just for like a week or 10 days, but they can go on for 2 years doing the same thing, not talking to the partner. And it's like, you'll feel like, oh, this person is sitting around with a swollen face, can't really have a conversation. It also feels a little bit like lit- a little bit like stepping on eggshells. So if I say something, chances are this person will explode and there will be a reaction that's going to be hard to manage. So I'm like overly careful of what I say because God knows when the anger will strike and what the reaction will be. So it's more passive aggression than aggression in emotion, just emotional abuse. And it's very hard to identify. But you keep feeling that the person is not present. Passive aggression could, so do you all know what passive aggression is over active aggression? Or would you like me to give an example?
Now give an example, please.
Okay. So outright aggression, for instance, so okay, this person, he told me once that when my mom is upset with me, I never bother to argue with her. All I do is I spit on the railing in the staircase railing. So basically, sitting there, he's watching. She will put her hand on it, and he's got his bit of satisfaction from that passive aggression where he's slid the harm in. She'll feel upset when she touches it. She will have nothing to point out and say that you have done this. She'll just wonder, oh, how did it get wet here? So it's very subtle. Only the person can kind of guess that I've been frustrated in some way deliberately, but I can't point out what happened. But the person is not willing to have an open conversation about what is bothering this person. Uh, Also, so when you do try to discuss something that you did this and it hurt me, there's a very good chance. So usually an abuser's behavior is of, there are two reactions you'll get. One is of gaslighting, that no, you don't remember it correctly. I didn't say that. I said that. And now suddenly you are confused. What was actually said? No, I didn't. When I said that, I meant that. Now there's no proof of what was really meant, but you both kind of knew. And now you can't say, no, you're telling a lie, because it's not a lie. It's not an outright lie. It's just a twisting of facts so that you can't even say. There's a big difference between a lie and a gaslighting, where a lie can be proven. This is black or white. This is the color. But here, the way gaslighting is done, you actually start questioning your own self. Oh, did I misunderstand what this person had said? Am I so bad at communication? Another way that such a person will usually react is by saying ki, how could you say that? So it's suddenly it will become about them. So you've brought up an issue, you want it to be addressed, but it will automatically be like, oh, that is so hurtful. How could you even think that I could do that? So you think I'm lying. You think for example, you said that day you said this, but you did this, and I thought you lied to me. What? You're calling me a liar? This is ridiculous. So suddenly you are on the defense and thinking, oh my God, I called him a liar or called her a liar. And then you're like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you a liar. I was just trying to clarify. But it somehow finds its way back to you, even though you are trying to just address a factual issue. And you actually, over a period of time, you start wondering if, because it's all aimed at chipping away at your confidence. And that starts working. If it's happened for years and years, you actually start wondering, you actually start thinking, what is wrong with me? You actually start thinking, how can I communicate in a better way? How can I make myself be understood? And you're constantly wondering the same things. How can I do this better? And usually all abusers will have small phases of um, reward. So it's like you've gone through a long time of wondering why they are not talking to you, or why they started shouting the other day, or some such. And then suddenly they want to, give you some breadcrumbs so that you don't die. So it's like, if I don't give you food for 10 days, you will die. So I will not give you food for exactly 9 days. On the 10th day, I will give you a little bit of breadcrumbs so that you don't die. You're still hoping that I will continue to survive. I will continue to get food from this person. So it's the same thing. They will give you a little, some sort of emotional validation at some point when they feel that, okay, I've kind of really pushed my boundaries. So something like in domestic violence, what happens is there's a there's an episode of violence today, and tomorrow this person will say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I wish you hadn't said this, because if you hadn't said this, I just wouldn't react like this. That's my trigger point. But anyway, let's do something. I've planned a trip. I've planned a trip to your favorite place. You always wanted to go to such and such place. I've planned a trip to that place. Plus, I've bought this gift for you. And suddenly, because you've just had an episode of domestic violence, and you're really like down and under and thinking, oh my God, this guy doesn't even love me. And then he's showering you with all this affection for a while. They know I was wrong. He may have had a spurt of anger, but he does love me. And then again, you find yourself starved for the love. So it's like a lot of back and forth. Uh, okay, is it, D says it's getting too overwhelming. Is it so for everybody? D, if you're not
No, Neha.
comfortable, sorry, if anybody is not comfortable, I would say log out, but I do want to address abuse today. Uh, Also, if you think it's overwhelming, I would suggest therapy for sure. But yeah, log out and like protect your feelings for now. I just want to make sure that I'm putting it out there, because I think in the process of being spiritual, we've stopped identifying some facts as they are. And I will repeat myself, none of this is meant to create a judgment for the people that we are with. It is meant for us to understand that we are actually in a situation which is making us double guess ourselves, making us doubt our own facts, and staying in emotionally hooked to situations which are very damaging for us, and where we need to draw our boundaries in the name of self love. So Yeah, it's not going to be an easy session. Most of the times I don't make things easy because it's I just feel like it's quicker work that way. It's hurtful. It's healing is hurtful. So yeah, you'll have to choose. Okay. So I think broadly I've covered the symptoms of behavior in the other person. Now let's look at how does this behavior start to affect you over the years or over a period of time. It could be even over months, but it starts to take effect on you, and you'll see some typical symptoms of being in a toxic relationship in yourself. Firstly, of course, you will not feel like it is a relationship. What you've forgotten the definition of what a relationship is supposed to mean. If you revisit the definition of what a real relationship feels like, you'll realize that you haven't felt that way for too long, not just for a short period of time where the friendship was missing. Um, there's also a pattern of feeling very devalued. So your thoughts, your decisions start to feel like they're not important. So the other person's thoughts and decisions are important, but yours are not. Also, there's usually a different set of rules for you and a different set of rules for the other person. So the other person can, let's say, travel with the friends, but you can't. And there's some sort of way found to ensure that you can't. Uh, Broadly, you feel very unheard. So it's like avaz, like the blockage is here. There's so many things I want to say. The throat chakra feels blocked in a relationship like this. There's a constant feeling that I wish this person will hear me out once. I have so much to say. And still you're feeling just like your voice is blocked. I'm unheard of. That feeling in a relationship over a long period of time is a sign that it's a toxic relationship for you. When you think of that person, the primary emotion you feel is of fear or resentment or anger, but not of friendship, companionship, love, laughter. That's not the primary thought. And not just because you had a fight 2 days ago, but because over a period of, so I'm emphasizing again and again, please don't judge somebody if you've had a fight 2 days ago, but or don't judge their behavior if you've had a fight 2 days ago and you're still angry. But if anger is the persistent emotion through the years, or more than anger, if fear is the predominant emotion in when you visualize that person, then you have been in a relationship where this person has created an atmosphere of fear around you and around the relationship. And that that that's what creates a sense of fight or flight all the time. So you're constantly in this hyper mode, like fight or flight, but you haven't been able to leave the relationship, so now it's freeze. So it's like sort of like living like a non-living being, not having too many joys, not having too much of anything. It's like a freeze. I've frozen in this relationship. Uh, there's usually, because of the fear, obviously, you can't even think of, or you try not to contradict what the other person is saying, not to challenge them, not to disagree with them. Over the years, chances are that you have also been isolated from your friends and family, because this is just how a, a severely toxic person will try to behave, because they know that someday you're going to need support to and what's going on with them. So support can come in the form of financial support or in the form of your friends and family. So chances are that you have been financially derailed or curtailed. And so this is obviously something extreme I'm talking about. So let's not measure an average relationship against this. But I did want to address something as extreme as this, where you didn't even realize at a young age your career was given a backseat. The other person would have savings, your earnings would be spent, some such thing to ensure financial control. And cutting you off from friends and family gradually by finding faults with the people you hang out with to ensure that you're isolated in more ways than one. If you were to ask them what are you really like, what your likes are, what your dislikes are, this person is, if you think the answer is that this person doesn't really know you, then it's not an authentic relationship. Mm. Yeah. So I think these are the typical symptoms showing up in the relationship. And because our mind and body are so deeply connected, being in a toxic relationship will eventually show up in psychosomatic forms. So, a very common, of course, psychosomatic symptom is headaches, or just like, yeah, a constant feeling of I'm very tired. Because so much emotional energy is going into managing things, you're so drained. So, the first thing this a person who has been in a toxic relationship for the long run will end up saying is I'm just so exhausted, I'm physically tired. Of course, another is not just emotionally tired, but now I'm physically tired. I end up spending a lot of time in bed. uh Aches and pains starts primarily with headaches, but it could be anything like pain in the legs, or for some people anxiety is automatically a stomach ache, but unexplained aches and pains, the tests will come out right. So long term stress does that to people. There's also insomnia often. So obviously there's struggle with getting to sleep on time. There's a struggle with addictions sometimes, because that then the abused tends to find some kind of solace in numbing themselves through some addiction. But usually for women it's likely to be food. So maybe overeat or not be able to eat at all. Mm, yeah, and overall the confidence tends to be low. There's lower self-trust. There's a feeling of I don't even know what's right. I don't know what to do. And a lot of people ask why people stay in relationships like this. To a lot of people, it's so obvious. So if somebody was to say, "Oh, the my husband raised my hand," or "My wife shouts at me, I'm scared of," or something, sometimes people will respond with, "I wouldn't take that. I would have left that a long time ago." But abusive relationships are designed to be more addictive than normal relationships, for two reasons. Because they take you through the extreme low and then the extreme high. And when you're extremely low, anyways, there's no strength. And then you're extremely high. And it's like that person starts to feel like a savior in some way. And that depletes you of the energy. So it's very difficult to, because your energy is depleted over a period of time, plus your confidence is taken away. So it becomes very difficult to take a decision. There's usually a lot of mental fog. So even a clarity in decision is difficult to get to. And if you do reach a point of clarity, it's still difficult to execute that decision. So, yeah, it is genuinely difficult to come out of relationships that are toxic. This is broadly what I wanted to say today. I think I'll open it to some question answers.
Uh, can I go ahead?
Yeah.
So if somebody is in an like as per the parameters that you've explained that it's a toxic relationship, uh, how do you go about getting help?
Sorry, how to get help?
Yeah.
So,
How should I put it? I mean, you know that the spouse is he or she, whichever, is very abusive, emotionally abusive, maybe not physically abusive, inattentive,
hmm,
in whatever respect, fitting in all the parameters or some of the parameters, and you don't want to be in that relationship.
mhm.
And it's a marriage. I'm talking about a marriage. How do you go about taking steps to move away? I mean, you know that you have to let go and you have to move out. How do you go? How do you go about it?
Are you talking about emotionally disconnecting from the person, or are you talking about actually physically disconnecting from the person?
Actually, physically leaving that relationship, and see, people who are like this, who are, you can call them maybe narcissistic, maybe to some extent, right?
That's so a narcissistic abuse is just slightly different from a non-narcissistic abuse.
But it's a,
But
yeah,
yeah.
okay. It still fits, yeah. So both fit into the character parameters of being abusive. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the one who is not abusive or who's going through all the abuse realizes that other person is abusive. And if you point out to that person, he or she is able to admit, oh, yes, I'm abusive or whatever. Right. So, how do you walk out? Okay, let me say if that person is not working, if it's a woman, if it's the wife who's facing something and she's not working, doesn't have financial support, but you know that the relationship has got so toxic that you just have to get out.
Hmm.
How do you go about that?
See, it's not easy. So most such people are actually the abuser is actually the person who is also uh, more insecure than the abused.
Yeah, of course.
So
Of course.
chances are that when the abused finally wants to stop the abuse and wants out of the relationship, there will, despite the fact that this person never showed any love or affection, now doesn't want to continue with the separation. So they are not willing to say, okay, I never loved you anyway, go to hell, I don't care. That's not the response you'll get. When you say you want out, chances are that you will be blamed. Oh,
Yeah.
you don't care about me. You don't care about the marriage, despite how much I cared about you. You don't care about what repercussions this will have on the children, what repercussions you're breaking the family. They will use every form of guilt. I forgot to mention guilt. Guilt is another constant thing that is felt in emotional abuse. Somehow you're always wrong. So you're constantly feeling guilty. Am I not doing enough for this person? Do I not know how to show my love? So yeah, they are, like, um, it's not like easily going to be okay, mutual consent, let's get separated or divorced or whatever. It's double or triple the war. So it is about planning it out. It is about ensuring some sort of financial support, because this person will most likely try and do anything and everything possible, first to prevent the separation from happening, secondly from um if you were to manage, they will do whatever it takes to make it difficult for you after that, in the sense maybe spread bad stuff about you, tell people she did this, she did that, just to appear as the victim,
Mm.
and to make you appear as
As a
the
person.
perpetrator. So yeah, they can also try to destroy your relationship with the kids, or they themselves may refuse to be available for the kids. So it, for practical purposes, if you've already managed to emotionally come out of the web, for all practical purposes, you will have to try that. It will probably take like a couple of years of planning to ensure that you can be on your own, because this person is not likely to make it easy. So any delusion ki, oh, I will have a talk, like somebody called me up and said, okay, counseling successful, I'm leaving this person, and I've told him to find me a house on rent near his house, so that I can move out with the children, and he can meet them regularly. I said, okay, what did he say? He said, give me a month's time. So I instantly knew that it's 1 month wasted. 1 month later, she will ask him, nothing will happen. And that's exactly what happened. 1 month
We'll
later,
say 1 more month.
yeah,
Like
and
that.
something else, and something else. That's how they have, anyways, managed to spend so many years. No, next month I'll be nicer to you. So you can't rely on them. It has to be about you yourself managing to find something.
नेहा, थोड़ा सा ये भी बताओ कि वहीं पे रह के बाउंड्रीज को कैसे सेट करें.
That's another point.
यस. यस.
Hmm. मेरे लास्ट सेशन में there was somebody who asked me about when my parent says so and so to me or judges me, I feel very triggered and it hurts me. तो बाउंड्रीज मोस्टली ऐसे सेट होती हैं कि जब आप खुद ही दूसरे पर्सन के बिहेवियर से अफेक्ट होना बंद हो जाते हैं, तो उसको भी मजा आना बंद हो जाता है. So they automatically stop doing it. They have lost their power over you when you are not triggered by their behavior. उनको सारा मजा ही इसमें आ रहा था कि आप वो शाम को रो रहे हैं आपकी, अरे we went to the party but you were giving more attention to this other person, you didn't even look at me, I felt very hurt, or you said this jokingly but it was very hurtful. अब आपने तो बोला है कि you are hurt. This person will pretend that no, I didn't mean it that way, but this person's got the satisfaction, the attention that they wanted. कि, okay, she is still pining for my attention, or he's still pining for my attention, still pining for my love. That is the kind of validation they are constantly looking for. They need a lot of attention. It's not love that they need.
Can't hear Neha. Is it only me or is it my internet? Can other people hear me?
We are able to hear Neha.
So the whole fun of this thing is to get attention, your attention. And negative attention is even more fun than regular attention. So if you're crying, sobbing for their love and attention, that's really the best thing for them. But when you're not available that way, and for that, that's where your spiritual lesson comes in. But first, you have to realize that you have to stop. That's where your need to be truly detached comes in. Of course, there are lots of other ways, like specific ways, how you answer when they want to fight, they enjoy it. It's called supply. So instead of love, such people need supply, like attention supply. And they really prefer negative attention supply over positive attention. So they thrive on the fact that you come up to them, cry, fight, whatever. So the less you do that, the easier your life becomes. It's okay. Let's say you have to live in the house because there are children to be raised and there's financial dependence. So you have a few years until you can move out. Then you just live like two people who have to kind of share the space as co-parents. But if you're going to say, why did you look at me like that? Or why didn't you? I was unwell, but you didn't take me to the doctor. If you're looking for all that from such a person and you're communicating that to that person, or every time they are not doing it, you're feeling hurt, then the drama continues. And you can continue it for as long as you like. When you stop trying to change their behavior, most of the drama stops. And that's where acceptance comes in. The spiritual topic of acceptance, where you have accepted that this is how they are and this is how they will continue to be. So your part of the drama stops.
So basically, we stop supplying to their,
Yes. Stop
yeah,
providing the supply.
providing,
And
yeah.
half the fun for the other person dies. They're like suddenly frustrated when you stop providing the supply. That अरे वो मजा ही नहीं आ रहा अब तो, then they will come to you and find ways to pick a fight. There's a question. Could you please explain what's a narcissist behavior? Mhm. See, narcissist, first of all, is a spectrum. And I would really avoid labeling quickly anybody as a narcissist. It's better to do it through a therapist if necessary for some reason, to understand maybe you're in a narcissistic abusive relationship. So yes, sometimes you need the label, not to label the other person, but to be able to understand, okay, this is what is going on, this is what is going on in the other person's mind, this is what explains their behavior, this is the kind of behavior I should expect from them, and therefore this is how I'm going to respond to it going into the future. But narcissistic behavior is an extreme form of needing attention but not needing love. And they are so insecure that usually they end up cheating on their partner. And that is also because they are themselves building walls and making sure that I'm not emotionally connected to any one person too much. I'm not emotionally dependent upon one person too much. So it's like a child who never grew up, who's very insecure, who needs to be told constantly, ki, oh, you are the prettiest, or you are the nicest, or you are the best, or you are the best at business, or you know how to do the work, only you can do it, all of that, and that will also not give them security. So therefore, usually the behaviors of a narcissist will start with love bombing, which means the initial few 6 months to a year of the relationship will feel like you've met God reincarnated, this is the nicest person on the planet, followed by sudden withdrawal. And that could go to any extent, varying from one person to another. So that withdrawal could feel like an emotional withdrawal, or it could be that the person just disappears from your life and you're wondering, oh, where did this person, he was claiming suddenly, and it's like 0 to 100. You're nobody today. Tomorrow they will talk about, I'm Shiva and you're my Parvati. And third day it's like, oh, sorry, I forgot about you, I was somewhere else. I mean, I'm giving you the extreme where I'm saying today, tomorrow, day after, but I'm exaggerating so that you understand how narcissistic people tend to behave. So they want to get you into kind of like a situation where you become very invested in them. And it's still coming from a place of deep insecurity, but they come off as overconfident. And a prime characteristic of such people is that they are completely different with you or their primary partner, and they're completely different in front of the rest of the world. So if the primary partner was to go and tell somebody tomorrow that, behind closed doors, this person is mean to me, the rest of the world is likely not to believe. No, he's the gentlest person alive. He's the kindest. Look, he's such a jovial person. That's the kind of response you're likely to get. So there's a dual persona maintained, which is also done on purpose. So here again, I would like to add a spiritual lesson. I heard someone say this recently, that the perpetrator is the perpetrator to the victim, right? The victim is also the perpetrator to his own self. Did you get this?
Yeah.
And to the extent that, let's say, the abuser is empty, devoid of emotions, looking for attention, the abused is going through the same things only to a slightly lesser extent. And that is why they are perfect match for each other. And that is why it continues for years. So if either one of them did not have that deep rooted insecurity, including the abused, they would have exited. So the abused is also constantly looking for validation or love. Although we like to use the term empath, this, that, or the other, but it's both are stemming the root of both. And that is why they say we are mirrors. That person is also insecure, and the victim is also insecure. Only that person's insecurity has grown so large that they have now built a wall around themselves forever that can't be penetrated through. And the victim's is large, but not that large. A little less large, so they are constantly seeking affection where they are unlikely to get it. They just haven't yet built the wall. Which is why usually when you've gone through something, the victim tends to become into the same kind of perpetrator eventually. It's just that it's also true that usually boys tend to become, because they will take out that sort of the emptiness, the feeling that tends to come out as anger. And for women, it tends to come out as a neediness. So often the abuser is a guy and the abused is a woman, but that's not 100% true. It's that much more difficult for men when they are in an abusive relationship, especially because most of the women would only be emotionally abusive. It would be that much more difficult for a man to identify it, and that much more difficult to even explain to anybody that he's going through it. And there are, of course, definitely abusive women out there. But the biggest lesson for us in this is to understand how we are the perpetrator in this. If you're feeling that you may be the abused, then the important thing, the spiritual way of looking at it, is to understand how you yourself are the perpetrator of what is happening to you, and how you would like to bring an end to that. So I think today we can actually finish in 1 hour. Are there any? Yeah,
I
yeah,
had one question. I
yeah.
had one
Yeah,
question.
sure.
Yeah. So when you said, somebody asked, I think, how to set boundaries when we were discussing, and you said we are not triggered by their behavior
That's the
anymore,
primary
or
way of setting a boundary. There are many
yeah,
other tactics.
and you become detached, and you stop try to change their behavior. So while you are trying to do all of that, and in the process you find that the partner is also becoming detached, and he's anyways he the partner is not getting triggered by
Happy to
your
do.
behavior,
Yeah. Hmm.
just happy in their own spaces,
Yeah.
then what kind of space would that be when you are happy in your own space, your partner is happy in their own space, but somewhere you feel the connect has gone, but they're
Hmm.
still in their own worlds,
Hmm.
because one partner is not triggering anymore, they feel detached about the
But
relationship,
then
about
see,
the whole thing.
you've at least stepped down the ladder, stepped down the ladder of toxicity one level, where you're not playing that game of let me trigger you, let me look for attention, blah, blah, blah. Now it's I've accepted I can't get attention from you. So I'm going to do my job. I'm going to go to my work or manage my children or manage the
Yeah.
whatever it may be. Uh, it's not the best. Obviously, it still creates a certain level of because we want a better partnership. But then you just have to remind yourself that it's a matter of time. And yes, eventually, why not? Why not want to exit the relationship actually physically? If not now, maybe have a plan. Maybe 4 years later, 5 years later, when the time is right, I'm going to do it my way. So, what is possible at any point of time is how much you get done. If if the first step, of course, is still emotional detachment, that's the core of it. Now, in the physical realm, when and how it's possible, it's going to happen. And if this person is actually behaving like usko koi farak nahi pata, you have detached, then that person should also follow through. No, say okay, fine, let's get actually separated. Let's live in two separate houses. If they are so detached, they should also be okay with that. Hopefully.
नेहा, एक क्वेश्चन है। बीच में मेरा डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया था, कोई आ गया था तो मैं चाय बनाने लग गई।
Mm-hmm.
लेकिन मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है कि जिस ट्रू लव की हम लोग बात करते हैं, सारी लाइफ उसको साधने सूधने में ही लग जाती है। वो ट्रू लव का एक्सपीरियंस वो नहीं होता। मतलब समझे कि आप जोड़ तोड़ बिठा रहे हो,
Hmm.
बच्चों को सेट कर रहे हो, अपने आप को सेट कर रहे हो, 4 तरह की एडजस्टमेंट्स कर रहे हो,
Hmm.
आप अपना मी टाइम ढूंढ रहे हो,
Hmm.
आप अपने आप को इमोशनली डी अटैच कर रहे हो।
Hmm.
तो कई बार अंदर से ये आवाज उठती है कि
When will I
वो एक
find that comfortable relationship?
नहीं,
Why?
अंदर से ये आवाज उठती है कि हम लोग यूनिवर्सल लव की बातें करते हैं सेशंस में, तो
Hmm.
यहाँ पे वो जो लव है, ना तो दिया जा रहा है ना लिया जा रहा
Hmm.
है। यस। और मतलब पता नहीं, ऐसे लगता है कि शायद ऐसे ही साधने, मतलब कोई ऐसा पल होगा जब आप ट्रू लव को एक्सपीरियंस करोगे, या ऐसे ही। और जैसे जैसे रियलिटी ज्यादा क्लियर होती चली जाती है, उतनी पेनफुल भी होती चली जाती है। क्योंकि पहले आप इल्यूजन में होते हो, चलो आज नहीं तो कल, आज नहीं तो कल, आज नहीं तो कल। लेकिन जब क्लैरिटी होती है, तो वो जब धुंध हटती है, तो एक पेन आती है, जैसे आप सेशन से पहले ही कह रही थी कि पेन होगा।
Hmm.
पता नहीं, ये थॉट बहुत प्रोमिनेंटली आता है कि हम लोग तो कहते हैं कि सब एक ही है। जब हम नित्या के सेशंस में बैठते हैं,
Hmm.
हम कहते हैं कि देखो सब एक ही है, सेम कॉन्शियसनेस, सेम करके।
Hmm.
यहाँ क्या स्टक हो जाता है कि हम बाउंड्रीज बनाने लग जाते हैं, हम साधने लग जाते हैं,
But
हम जोड़ तोड़ बिठाने लग जाते हैं कि
मैंने भी वही बोला, सब एक ही है। To the extent that person was disappointed in love, growing up and therefore built a boundary around them. To that extent, you were disappointed in love growing up, and that is why you have become needy of love. Needy means needy to the extent जहां पे हमारे अंदर एक तरह की बेचैनी रहती है. When will I find love? When will somebody love me? एक तरह की कांस्टेंट फीलिंग रहती है कि when will somebody love me? एक तरह की कांस्टेंट एम्प्टीनेस रहती है. Usually when people are single, they don't feel that. There are happily single people out there. It's when people are in a toxic relationship that the sense of loneliness gets heightened. So a person in a toxic relationship is much lonelier than a person who is not in a relationship at all. But what spirituality is teaching us is that we are all one, in the sense that the abuser and the abused are one, because the abused is also a perpetrator, or the 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 person who is emotionally unavailable and the person who is emotionally overly needy to the point of taking too much just to somehow find love are both one. They are reflecting each other. But मैं आपको सिर्फ इतना कह सकती हूँ कि आई थिंक शायद लाइफ का पर्पस ही यही है कि जब हम उस पॉइंट पे पहुंच जाएं कि हम खुद काफी हद तक खुद से प्यार करने लगे. एंड सेल्फ लव हैज बीन माय constant one thing that I keep emphasizing on. When you reach a certain level of self-love, despite the fact that your parents may have constantly made you feel rejected, or sometimes made you feel rejected, or your parents have made you feel abandoned sometimes, despite everything, when you can forgive all those people, truly forgive, and truly become self-loving, that is when you will also attract people around you who are equally self-loving. We only vibrate at a certain frequency, and we will always attract people around us who are at the same frequency. So we can keep wondering ki, I was so loving, I was so full of love, but the other person didn't love me. No, you were not loving, you were needy of love. And there's a big difference between the two things. When you stop being needy of love and when you're just loving, your frequency will change. And when your frequency will change, or everyone around you will change. Either that person will change who you are with right now, or you will attract somebody else. So the only person who needs to change is you, and your frequency needs to change. Does that make you feel clearer, Neeru?
बहुत अच्छे से.
Thank
Thank you.
Suvarna.
Neha.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to say same thing. Like throughout the session, I was feeling like it doesn't seem like there is a single relationship which is not abusive.
Which is
but
which is not, sorry?
abusive.
Okay.
So, but like I have changed my relationship practicing gratitude and self-love. Completely transformed. Like my husband is now completely transformed. Even my boss is transformed. My mother-in-law is transformed. My sisters, like now I keep on writing gratitude about them. Like my energy has transformed, so they have changed. And I have stopped changing them. The most important thing is I have stopped changing them.
Yeah.
And I have stopped
Accepting
providing supply
other
of
people
attention.
to change is non-acceptance of truth as it is.
Yes.
The only thing you can change is you yourself.
Yes,
And
I have changed myself.
Yeah.
And it has literally changed. It has literally changed.
And then the magic will happen around you.
Yes. It has happened. And the most important thing is when we expect love now we don't get. When we stop expecting love, then automatically we get it.
It's not about expecting love, it's about needing. And when there's
Hmm.
need, there's a fear of, oh my God,
Yes, not
how will I
getting.
live if I don't get it? And the moment there is this fear, ki, how will I live if I don't get it? Why can't
Yes,
I get it? The sense of desperation is there. When there is the desperation around us, then obviously we'll not get
yes,
anything good out of that. So
yes,
what we fear is what we attract. Now there's desperation. There's this fear of what will happen if I don't get love. So you'll get no love. But when you're not even concerned, you're just love yourself,
yes,
then automatically things will happen.
yes.
But you
I
don't
have seen.
become that because you're thinking, oh, I will try and become that, then I will get love.
No, 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 not that feeling.
There's
You
no
just become
precondition.
self-loving.
You
You just
just,
become
exactly.
grateful person. You just become grateful person and loving person. That's what. Loving and grateful.
And
These are the two
self-loving
legs.
will automatically make you put boundaries where they are necessary.
Yes,
You cannot bear it when people step over your boundaries when you love yourself enough.
yes.
Which
I
doesn't
think
mean you have to be angry with them. It doesn't mean you have to shout at them, but it just means you respect your own self enough to do what is right for you. That's it.
yes. I think you should take one session on self-love because that is the most important thing in this discussion throughout last 1 hour. Whatever we were discussing, like someone said, it's
I
unbearable,
think Nitya
but
is coming back now. He's gone till tomorrow only. So maybe we can ask him to take a session on self-love. And
yeah,
I don't know if he'll take on boundaries because I think he only takes up spiritual topics, but we can ask him to do that.
Yeah, maybe
yeah,
one on setting the boundaries.
but one
Boundaries.
thing I want to say, Nitya has always said that even if he's around, we can take sessions.
Yeah.
It's not that in absence, his absence only we are taking sessions.
Okay, so then I can take one session on boundaries.
हाँ,
And
Boundaries.
नेहा
How to set.
नेहा और अभी हमें बीच में आप छोड़ भी नहीं सकते हो
बहुत कुछ खोद के उखाड़ा है अंदर से
अभी बीच में नहीं छोड़ सकते अभी 2 सेशंस हैं एक बाउंड्रीज का
मरम पटनी
अभी
करनी पड़ेगी ना
यस घाव खुले छोड़ दिए तो मरम पट्टी
हाँ
तो आपको ही करनी
मरम पट्टी भी करनी पड़ेगी
पड़ेगी
okay,
I agree.
Chalo,
हाँ.
it's getting recorded, so I'll tell Nitya ki there is proof people want 2 more sessions.
yeah
We
people
can
want more
plan them
sessions
out.
on you
Yeah.
and
The
Nitya has always
boundaries.
said yes Nitya has always said yes to all the people
Yeah, he encourages totally.
yes
Yeah.
Neha, this is Jayanti. Can we really have I mean, I don't know, I've joined the sessions in between, so I don't have your introduction. So sometimes, like, you just put a text, so we know about you.
Yeah, I do. If that's what you want to know, I do work as a counselor and therapist, and I also take up regression therapy, which is what I did the last time. That's called regression therapy.
Past life, you mean?
Not past life. I avoid touching past life. Past life, anyway, should not be touched upon unless everything else has been tried and you can't seem to resolve your issues. Because
the voice
there's a
is breaking I
reason.
think
So there is a reason I feel that God or nature planned it this way that we don't remember our past life.
Past.
It may be too much information to handle. So it's not required, I think. You can kind of get a vague feeling that if there's a repeat pattern in your life or in your family, it's all connected to something in the past. If you can simply accept that, it's better. If still something is not happening despite everything, sometimes I think for some people it becomes imperative to go for past life. But I
So
would treat it.
regression, what did it mean? I just maybe
Regression
missed
is
a
something
session.
like going back into your own life. But the way I did it on this platform was a slightly shorter cut way of doing it. So you can touch it more deeply. And when it's done individually in person, it can bring you in touch with memories which have been consciously lost.
Consciously suppressed.
Yes. So sometimes, the subconscious memories come up and stuff
Right.
like that. And that just helps to heal, especially because the really painful memories are a lot of times tucked away because
We
we
don't want to deal
want
with
to
it.
remember them, part of
Yeah.
us. But then they are hurting anyway. So sometimes just understanding, why am I hurting?
Hurting, or sometimes I think it affects the kind of the way we deal with life because of the hurt or the trauma,
Yes,
but we
yes,
suppressed it, but you don't
yes,
realize why you're reacting to a
yes,
certain situation or whatever.
yes.
Interesting. I think I must have missed that session. So I don't remember attending that session.
The last one
The
you
last
can,
section.
there were two such sessions. The first one, we didn't share the recording because of the nature of sharings in that.
Was that regression?
The last one, did
Second
you see
one.
the last one?
The last recording. It was just 2 days back, Deepa.
So I attended that. I
Huh, so
attended
that
that.
was
Yeah.
a small sample of what regression can look
Yeah.
like.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
the person went back into
Yeah.
being with another person in,
Yeah.
yeah, but it wasn't done thoroughly because of
It's
the
a
fact
platform.
that,
Yeah, a lot
yeah,
of people were
yeah,
there.
yeah.
There may be some. Yeah. Okay.
So any other questions? Anybody would like to share something,
Yeah.
anything?
So Neha, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
This is Shabnam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the things that you were saying, I feel like I could be the perpetrator without knowing, that I'm angry, I'm getting angry, I'm getting out of control,
I'm so
I'm
glad you asked.
saying the thing. Yes. So how do you know when a person is doing it out of intention and versus doing it as a reaction to a situation?
Yeah, it's called reactive abuse.
Mm,
And I'm so glad you brought that up because, yeah, I think a lot of times after some time of being in a relationship which is very frustrating, we bring into ourselves very similar qualities of our partner. It's very natural. When you've been rejected, you've been put down, you've been trashed for so long, the frustration builds up and then the anger builds up. And then also it starts seeming that this is the way to behave. This is how things get done. So there's two people behaving exactly like each other. And because abusers are so good at making you feel like you get angry so easily. Abusers are so good at saying these things, before they are doing something, chances are that you would have been blamed for what they do to you.
mm,
But you'll have to go back into the history and look at how did this start. Or alternatively, you could be just two people who have low patience. That's it. It doesn't have to be abuse. If both are getting their word in and there is some anger issues, then it's just that. It's just anger issues. So
mm.
it's not,
That it
if
can be a situation where other people have put you in that situation where both of you are fine. It's just other family members have made you so frustrated. It can also be like that.
so that's usually something that happens in emotional abuse, where the emotional abuser is so smart, and there's passive aggression, there's emotional absence, there's stonewalling, and now you're frustrated, and you are the one who's shouting, and it looks like
Mm,
she's shouting all the time.
yes.
So, but if you can identify with that, then you will know that how this was brought about. But if you were always like that, like very low on patience, treating yourself as expecting more than, or having different set of rules for yourself, expecting yourself to be chances are you wouldn't have asked me this question if you were the abuser.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but how to show it to the other person that you're not? That's the challenge. But Neha, I have to say that one thing I really love about this is that you're from India and
Mm,
you understand a lot of the Indian issues.
mm.
And and a lot of what you were talking about is extremely difficult to navigate on your own. You can easily get misled into, like you said, labeling somebody the wrong thing, and then, oh my God, now you're on the wrong path unnecessarily. So you really do need a therapist to walk you through this.
Yes, yes. I can't emphasize that enough. A lot of relationships, if both people are willing to look at it and work at it is best to try through a therapist if it has hit a bottom.
Yeah,
So it may feel like, because it's going through a prolonged rough patch, it may start feeling like, oh, this guy is abusing me or this woman is abusing me. But even then, if give it one honest shot with a therapist, because a therapist is a person who is neutral and knowledgeable.
and it might just be to have a better life. It doesn't have to hit rock bottom. Just the fact that
Oh, yeah,
you have triggers.
absolutely,
It's,
absolutely,
it's
absolutely. Yeah, in fact,
yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, even if there is just something that's a constant trigger between a couple or a frequent trigger or a pattern, there's absolutely no harm in seeking therapy.
exactly.
And that's the problem, of course, in India is that we wait to hit rock bottom. And even then, sometimes we don't want to.
Right. And both partners, I mean, one of the partners may not be wanting to go for therapy.
Usually, the abuser will not want therapy because they consciously know that they are being manipulative. So then, how do you go and say, yeah, I said this, but I said this because I wanted to achieve this? You can't go to a third person and accept your whole truth. And if you're not willing to accept your whole truth, then what's the point of therapy? So that's why the abuser doesn't want to bother with therapy. But the person who is uh, feeling the frustration of being in an abusive relationship is more than happy. Let's solve this. Let's find a solution. Let's hear each other out. Hear me out. So, yeah, usually the if your partner is not even willing to walk that mile with you, that itself is not a very good sign.
You wanted to ask Madeline ji something in the beginning. What was that? You said, can you hear me? Because I wanted to refer to something. If you remember, Neha, right in the beginning.
Wait, I see Jayanti's hand raised. Jayanti, is there something you want to say?
A major aspect of an emotional abuse could be even cheating in marriage, which we have not touched upon. I just wanted to bring
Cheating
it to
is
the.
not abuse as such. Cheating is a completely different area.
Mhm.
And cheating has many reasons. Cheating is abuse when it's done by somebody who is anyways unwilling to emotionally connect and therefore is finding all these ways of cheating with different other people, or so that they can stay emotionally distanced from their partner. But cheating can also happen for various other reasons, including sometimes, in fact, more often than not, it would be the abused partner who would end up cheating. Cheating as such, I mean, I don't know what cheating, because if you're lonely for long enough,
That
then
could be justified, but there are these days like many people going into multiple working at their workplace or other places and carrying on with their marriage also. And the woman doesn't know,
Then
or the
that
woman is
usually woman knows. Woman may not know what exactly is happening. Woman knows the person is not emotionally there
there. And
or
even
otherwise. Everybody knows. Gut knows everything, especially in close relationships.
yes, but it's an abusive relationship, right? Isn't it?
It's a cheating relationship. If there are other symptoms of abuse as well, then it is an abusive relationship. And
Maybe this is a vast topic that, it's not in
yeah,
this area, but I feel that it is also abusive
so
relationship where,
cheating is a subset of abuse, but all cheating is not necessarily abuse. Some types of cheating
yes,
are abuse.
yeah, but people are taking, whether it's a male or female, are taking things very lightly and going into immediate gratification, sensual gratification, where ultimately there is so much of abuse. I
Yeah,
mean,
because you are doing
psychological
things
and
to do
emotional abuse
that.
is there.
See, there are, of course, let's say that there are people who prefer to be monogamous and there are people who prefer to be polygamous.
Yes.
Now, if let's say, one partner is polygamous, I would still not classify it as abuse if that partner comes clean and says, okay, I need to have different sexual experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So if that discussion is had with the partner, I personally would not agree to a relationship like that. But there could be a partner who is okay with that.
Yeah,
But
but it is the minute it comes on the table, they don't know what the other spouse would say, so they won't
that's a risk
come
you
with it
have
to the
to
table
take. If they are not
for
willing to
discussion.
take that risk, then it is unfair to the partner.
Yeah, so I feel, in
It's
my opinion, it's
dishonest to the
still an
partner.
abuse. So I feel it's an emotional and
It is,
psychological
it
abuse
is,
to the
it is.
highest level.
Yeah, it is. It is when that person, because that person cannot be emotionally present.
Yeah, you were talking about the stone wall and you were talking about getting intimate also. So the person is getting intimate in marriage also, outside of marriage also. I mean, what kind of a thing is happening? Could be getting gifts, going on trips, many things. And you are saying that the gut knows, but there could be certain people with some kind of a blind love for that spouse and is not willing to even accept this, that he could be in this relationship. It could be that yes, he's emotionally upset, maybe has some stress
You can
working
be
for
blind for a
business,
while,
but
but eventually you will sense when a person is not emotionally into you. And when you are investing your energy in physical intimacy with other people, you can't be emotionally invested in one person. There's only so much energy to give. So when you spread that energy, then you spread that energy. It's as simple as that.
because there's so much of drama, it's not really one cannot understand. Like I have seen people like they are so confused by just suspecting, and then the spouse is saying, there's nothing and it's your head. And still things are going on. I mean, you see it all around
I
these.
will need to have more details. I would recommend therapy for such a person. But
Um,
yeah, usually I would say the gut is right. But then there are also people, there is delusion, there is schizophrenia out there. So I can't give a one size fits all solution
yeah,
answer.
not that way, that
Hmm.
they are in delusion, but they are confused, like it's the mind having the fog and they're not clear. And that itself for 8, 10 years could lead into so many psychosomatic problems.
Yeah, that happens. That you're right. This is frequently prevalent.
And they are it's difficult to confront because the other person could feel offended, walk out, the marriage could break, many more things they don't want to touch it. It's very risky. But
That's
I
why
I
I
would
keep
say it's still
emphasizing that
abuse.
it's best to listen to your gut. If you are feeling that there is cheating involved, then take a break from the relationship, whether it is emotional break or whatever it may be. But if you're constantly feeling that there's something else going on which is not acceptable to me, then be fair to yourself and do something. That's where, again, the self-love comes in.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Marilyn,
Yeah.
आपने उस दिन मुझसे एक क्वेश्चन पूछा था that about your daughter. Would you like to still address that, or you're feeling better about it?
I'm much better about it. Definitely.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, okay.
Thank you for lots of patience, Neha.
No, not at all.
You are so patient.
You should see me when I'm not patient.
Oh,
This is all
because
drama.
since 1.5 hours you were speaking and you were not tired of speaking.
No, this is all drama. When I'm impatient, I'm very impatient.
But this doesn't look like a drama. My gut says that you are not acting.
Okay, at least I'm patient in this department.
Yeah.
This shows how you are with the clients, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which gains confidence, actually.
But this is actually my deepest passion.
Yeah,
So it
that's
comes
fine.
naturally.
It's obvious. It's very obvious.
Okay, good evening.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good
Good night.
evening. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you.
Looking forward for
See you again.
everyone.
Yeah, looking forward to you, Neha. We'll request Nitya. We will request Nitya.
Yeah, we can
Thank you.
write in the group.
Okay. Okay.
Nitya is
Yeah.
telling he has come back in India.
Sorry?
Nitya is telling he has come back.
But even
Yeah,
if he
that's fine.
is back, he will encourage others to take sessions. That's what I'm
Yeah,
telling.
yeah. I think he'll be good. That's not an issue.
This
Yeah.
session, Neha's session is so beautiful. I don't want it to end.
You are really checking her patience now. Now she will be
We
definitely
need
impatient.
many more sessions.
Let's start with
But
the.
Neha, whatever you were discussing was about personal relationship, but such scenarios exist in workplace also. So you
Work
cannot
also.
leave.
Yeah, definitely. And usually, people who are going through this in personal relationships go through it in work also. So you'll probably face, like I said, you'll be vibrating at a certain frequency and you'll be attracting the same kind of people, and you'll be wondering, why is everybody like this? How is it that my boss is also an asshole? Forgive my French. And how is it that everybody in my family is behaving like this? But it's like you are surprised. How am I attracting the bullies?
No, it's not like that. 1, 2 persons are like that.
At
Not
least
in family, not everywhere.
the main people who matter to you will have
Ah.
similar vibration.
It don't matter, but we have to report to them. No?
Yeah. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.